Hey everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel. I have a request from Rob. He wanted me to do a video about 5 misunderstandings about OCD. We have done this topic many times, but I do think it's important to redo topics just because we have so many videos and sometimes they get lost in kind of all the playlists. And you know, when I make videos now, since I've been working on recovery for 2.5 years, you know, if I made a video a year ago, I've changed a lot in that last 12 months. So I think it is important to redo videos. I also think it's important for anything in life that you do to go back and review yourself in a non-compulsive way. Whenever I want to make change in my life, what I try to do, which is difficult for me still, is kind of like look back at some of the things I didn't like what I was doing and kind of reassess and change in the future. And sometimes when I make these videos and I go back and I watch, I really saw how much I was desperately trying to, you know, deliver information in a way to where almost like I cared more about the recovery process and the people I was working with. And that was really a problem for me. So I want to talk about, as I said, the 5 misunderstandings about OCD. Painters of the house, all the homes are being painted. They're probably listening like, what the hell is this guy talking about? So don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button. Let us know what you think. Let me know if you like these 5. Engagement is great. It's great for the channel. It also shows sufferers. There's a lot of people who watch my videos that might not be engaging. Maybe they're afraid of, well, there's all sorts of different fears along this, you know, afraid of putting their name out there and all sorts of stuff and just making a comment. What if I make a mistake? What if I look stupid? And I was a moron in the beginning and made all sorts of mistakes. So the first thing I want to talk about, which we talk about a lot, is, have my paper in front of me, is exposures are not enough. Actually, I'll word these different because it's 5 misunderstandings. So the first misunderstanding is exposures are enough. But exposures are first of all, exposures are part of life. There comes a point in time where after you have done maybe a hierarchy of exposures for, say, a contamination OCD, a magical thinking OCD, HOCD or trans OCD, it comes to a point when I'm coaching someone and I say, look, you're going to be life exposed to people who are attractive of the same sex. I mean, I see attractive men, I see attractive females. You're gonna see that. That's part of life. That's part of the process of just living as a human being. So there comes a point in time where the exposures aren't applicable in the way that we think they are. Now, on the second fold of that, some fears do require more outward exposure, such as contamination OCD. There's no way around it. Certain harm OCD, if you're hiding knives and having a hierarchy and putting bubble wrap. Health OCD, if you're putting sunscreen on way too much with fear of skin cancer. So there will be times where they will be more necessary than others, but like a sensory motor OCD or HOCD and a trans OCD, a lot of times it all comes down to the belief system. But a lot of times I live around 2 or 3 military bases and they were flying F-16 fighter jets right above my house before, and it was ridiculous. So I'm just making sure they're not gonna come blast through the video, you know? So, and that's super, super important as well. See how much better I've gotten of losing track and then bringing it back to it? That's something I had to work on. But they're not, this is unfortunate, you know, and I think it's very difficult for people to hear. Exposures are not the gold standard anymore. They're important, but the sufferers know best. We know they're not the gold standard, but they're very important. But the reason why they're not the gold standard is because they were the gold standard for years. Many people have done exposures after exposures, not even realizing they were chasing relief from the exposures and didn't work on acceptance too much. The other misconception, which I didn't write here, but I want to put this in this one, is that exposures have acceptance written in it or in it. That's not true. Not in the level that you have to break down unconditional self-life, other acceptance. So doing an exposure doesn't have direct unconditional acceptance linked to it. If you do an exposure to, say, a documentary and you have a fear of harm OCD and self-harm, and you watch a suicide documentary, but you're still afraid you're going to lose control, that fear of losing control will never be touched by that exposure. They need to work together. But they're not the same, and that's a very big misconception that we hear. The second thing I want to talk about is acceptance means agreement. Now, acceptance doesn't mean agreement, and the reason why people get thrown off by this is because we live in a society where people believe that acceptance means agreement. So let me give you some simple examples. I'm a Christian, you're not Christian, I can't accept you. I don't like pineapple pizza. This is funny. I don't like pineapple pizza, but you do. I can't accept you. Oh, you go to that school. You're that football player. No, I can't accept you. Agreement doesn't mean acceptance is one of the critical cornerstone pieces of the recovery process. And inside of that, it looks like this. Let's use myself. Let's just use discomfort. Easy example for all of us, right? Anxiety. If I was to feel anxiety at 50% for the rest of my life, and it hindered all sorts of my goals, it hindered my ability to progress in the gym, it hindered my ability to concentrate at work. There's no universal law saying that that can't happen. And I would really dislike that, but it wouldn't need to create extra negative emotions, extra panic, depression, shame, and guilt. Those are perpetuated by belief systems that we're holding. This is the basis of Stoicism, rational thinking, that Dr. Albert Ellis formulated over thousands of years of Stoicism, formed it in his own way by realizing that diving into the past only had a little bit of merit, but the belief you're holding now, as Albert Ellis says beautifully, the goddamn belief you're holding now is the reason why you're upset. And I think that's so important to talk about. It's key. Okay. The third thing is OCD recovery is easier than most believe. So let's talk about this one for a little bit. It's very easy. I get asked this all the time. Why do you not make your TikToks funny? Why do you not make your videos catchy? That's a great part of life. Nothing wrong with that. They probably would get me more views. We always talk about if I made a post that said, and Rob, OCD sucks, 1 million likes. But instead, if I said, hey, being anxious isn't the end of the world and broke it down, it gets 11 likes because people want the easy way out. We live in a very comfort-based society. Comfort is not the devil. Comfort and balance is great, but it just doesn't really get us what we want. That doesn't mean that comfort is bad. Humans are swinging in all sorts of directions. So when you look at the channel where someone is saying that giving this, one tip to recover from OCD, it takes away. The other day I was speaking to someone and they said, they posted in the WhatsApp groups or they posted in the Facebook group, this one sheet has the answer to recovery. And I said, hey, and I only usually answer once to just help for other people who might be confused. I say, hey, I'm sure there's great information on here, but usually when people say, and they answer back and they said, because every word counts, and sure, I'm sure it does, but that's not real. OCD recovery can take years. Rarely does anyone ever make substantial, robust recovery in less than 1 to 2 years. They get their life back. I got my life back in 1 month, 2 months, working again, started my business, but I was chronically anxious with multiple changing themes with a lot of avoidance behaviors whilst I was still engaging in life, exercising, working, going out to dinners, bringing down some of my addiction behaviors. But I still was trapped in the OCD morphing, jambalaya and like chicken noodle soup of just like all these different things for a couple more years. And that's okay, but that's literally what was going on. So it is really, really important to realize that OCD will be much more difficult than we imagine, which is completely fine. Okay. Someone just pulled to the U-turn in my driveway. No big deal. Okay. Number 4. This is a difficult one to talk about because I made this mistake a lot. We can rely on other people to get the job done. That's the myth, right? That we can rely on other people. Now look, coaching, the webinars, whoever you're using, it's amazing. Very hard to recover from OCD on your own. I don't think I would have been able to do it. Rob gave me an insight into my fears, but Erica, my wife, my amazing wife, could not get me better. Rob could not get me better, not in the way of where he would do the work for me. He could educate, provide knowledge, but eventually I was the one that had to put the work in. I had to live with the discomfort. I had to get uncomfortable. I had to realize that I was running. I had to bring down my addictive behaviors. I had to work on patience. I had to take personal responsibility. I had to get my lifestyle factors in check. I had to have relapses. I had to have morphing themes. I was the one that was crying. I was the one that was running. I was the one that put on weight. I was the one that was unhealthy. I was the one that was smoking and drinking. I can go on and on and on. I think I've given you enough examples. Nick Anthony, was the one that had to bring that down. The famous quote, you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. Two birds of a feather flock together. You're going to be around people that are going to complain and be negative. You're going to complain and be negative. We all complain. We're all negative. I complain about shit all the time. But, you know, it's part of human nature. We always hear stuff like, oh, complaining has no ROI. Rob and I say that. But we still complain and joke sometimes. We're just saying in the grand scheme, right? Things happen. We get frustrated, but we don't complain all day long. We try to be solution-based, and that's key. That's key. Okay. And number 5 is the last misunderstanding about OCD is we are supposed to feel great on the journey. You know, I'm wearing it like an uncomfortable coat. Why am I not better? Here comes Erica. I don't understand why I'm not why I'm not feeling better, and so forth and so forth. Because when you're working on recovery, you're not supposed to feel better. You're not supposed to see the results in the moment. So when you do an exposure, I just got off a call just now. Great guy. We were talking about sensory motor. If he watches this video, it was his first call. I tell him, you know, when we're doing our disputing homework, when we're bringing down our compulsive behaviors, our addictions, all our other avoidance, we're not supposed to feel good. We're also not supposed to run from it with thought distraction. So when I do an exposure, when I did, I would do it and I wouldn't speak to myself with mantras. Because when I would speak to myself with mantras, I would be telling myself in that behavioral action from speaking that this is terrible, I can't stand it, this is the worst thing ever, I have to run from this, so forth and so forth. But what we actually want to break down is that OCD recovery, again, to the third point, it's not easy. That we're not going to feel great for a while. That we can do things, we can relax on the couch while having a panic attack. I know it's a foreign concept. I'll probably get some kickback on that, but that's just my belief system and my perspective on it. So I hope all of you enjoyed this video. This is a really good one. So let's go over the 5 misunderstandings again. Misunderstanding number 1, exposure enough. Broke that down beautifully. That acceptance means agreement. We know it's not. Very critical for the harm, OCD, OCD recoveries, looking at behaviors, breaking down the fear of going to jail. Number 3, that OCD is easy. We know it's not easy. There's a problem with trying to simplify it. That we can rely on others to get the job done. Erica can't walk me, and she can walk me to the water. Rob can walk me to the water. Benefit. God, I don't even know where I'd be without the help from other people and the support and the education. Thank you, Rob. I owe you a lot. Thank you, my wife. I owe you a lot. Other my friends, but I had to get myself better. Okay, I had to put the work in. And then that we're supposed to feel good in the journey, which we're not. So thank you so much for watching. We have a lot of great webinars. We just added a couple more. So the end of August and early September, we have OCD Recovery Part 1, 2, and 3. We love those. They're packed. We cover lots of information. We just booked another POCD, I believe. Social anxiety and existential, I believe, is next week. But if you're interested in the webinar services, they're a lot of fun. Please email phil@ocdrecovery.com. I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.